Hi, I'm Lindsey Benson,
Hi, I'm Shaunna Michalski.
and this podcast is for our Funeral Directing 1 class at DMAC. After reading A Tale of Two Funerals, The Throw Rug and Tapestry, we're reflecting on the actions of Sam Standard and Grace Gatekeeper, and we will be discussing the following questions. Our first question is, after reading the epilogue in the encounter with the family, imagine that we were the owner of the funeral home. What would we say to Sam when we return to the funeral home? What would we also say to Grace when we return to the funeral home? Want to go first?
I said that I would tell Sam to slow down. Don't assume what works for one will work for all. Um, and secondly, I would tell Grace that the family said she did an amazing job and that I personally really like all of her ideas that she brings to the table.
If I were the owner of a funeral home and I had ran into the family, I would return back to the funeral home and let Sam know the concerns that the family had. Um, that first, the family were still struggling with their grief, and that they were still in denial with their mother's passing. That Jennifer had expressed that she wished her and her brother would have been encouraged more to have a public visitation versus the private visitation. And well, many people misunderstood the obituary, I guess, as they thought it was private. So the attendance was very low. Um, and I would also go back and talk to Grace and let her know that the family was very happy with everything that she did for the family, and that they were raving about her and the funeral service and how the family was healing very well and dealing with the loss of their mother tremendously. I would tell Grace that she did a great job, and I would also ask her to maybe do a training with the other staff at the funeral home and give some pointers. Number two, referencing your answer to the discussion question regarding characteristics and skills in assignment three, provide examples of and if the characteristics and skills you selected were present throughout the story.
Okay, I chose genuineness, and I do feel like both were very genuine and they come along as they're able to help the families. Um, but I do think it's a very big, important part of our job to be able to be yourself and show who you are. And I feel like Grace did a very good job of that. And Sam was just kind of going through the motions. Um, my second uh, characteristic that I chose was leading, and I feel like Sam is one of those people that he is very timid and he take it how everybody else performed the funerals versus where Grace was outstanding and pushing, and she made their mom's funeral very personalized. So I think she did a very good job at showing that, and she is a very good leader.
I think those are both great characteristics, and I see both of those in the story. Number three was reflecting on the concepts of transactional and relational. Discuss an example in which Sam and Grace demonstrated each of these concepts throughout the story.
Okay, so for Sam being transactional, I think when he was in his arrangement meeting, he was it was just like a business transaction, and it also shows when they're going along and picking caskets and all the stuff for the funeral. Um, for Grace, relational, I chose when Grace was talking to Jennifer about her mom.
Sorry. Um, the ones that I had really stood out to me the first time I noticed the difference in the two, the transactional versus relational, is when they go to Jennifer's house to do the transfer of remains of Carol Williams. First, when they get there, and Jennifer mentions that she didn't realize what time it was already and that it was time for her mom to go. Sam responds that there's no rush. Maybe we could come inside and talk for a little bit and talk about the funeral. We also have paperwork to fill out. So I felt like he just jumped right into business, where he could have taken the time to maybe get to know the family a little bit more, talk about um, her mom, get to know her a little bit, who she was as a person, rather than just get down to what they wanted to do for the funeral. But when Grace went to do the transfer of remains, she got to the house and she asked to see Carol first. And then when she went up and saw Carol, they came back to the kitchen, and they sat down. Grace had turned to Jennifer and she had said that she noticed on the nightstand the photo of her mom in the garden, and she asked if she had a green thumb. So that started a conversation about her mom and how she liked to garden. So Grace really got to know who Carol had been as a person and what she really liked and enjoyed. So I just felt like that was more relational, and she got to know her more before she started to ask what she wanted to do for the funeral. Question 4 was each group will select one discussion question from any chapter. So chapter 1 through 12, and discuss the question that you want and give your answer. What one did you choose?
It was a question from chapter 8, and the question was about what you think um, about flowers. I think flowers are basically a waste of time.
Okay.
And I gave my own personal reference. My great grandma Arlene has recently passed, not this past December, but 2 Decembers ago now. And my friend Leah and I and my great grandma, we all golfed. So
Mhm.
Leah made us a resin container that had golf balls and grandmama's nickname, her death date, her birthday. So that was very special to me.
That's a great idea, and I think I agree with the flowers. Once they're gone, they're gone. But giving a family member something that they can have forever and always remember their loved one by is a really great idea. I like that. I chose the question number 1 from chapter 6, and it really basically just discussed how Sam was just assuming that the family wanted to have the services at the church because that's what they did when their father died. He really wasn't listening to what Jennifer and her brother Jack truly wanted, even though multiple times throughout their meetings they had mentioned that they weren't really religious, how after their dad died, their mom had stopped going to church, but he just kept stating how the service would be held at the church, that they would meet with the pastor next. He kind of gave the meeting over to the pastor after that and kind of was done with it. So I think if he had really took the time to listen to what the cues that the family was giving him, he would have gone, I think, or given them a better service, and just, I don't know. Really, I just think that he needed to listen better to their cues. Number five, reflecting on your own experiences and or beliefs. What, if any, impact will this book have on your role as a funeral director and the families that you serve? I think it's important to remember that it's not always about just being efficient, that we need to take time during the funeral to make the experience the best that it can be, because this experience is something that the family will never get again. Once the visitation is over, once the funeral service is over, it's over. They don't get a do-over. So I think that we really need to listen, like Grace did, to what their loved one wanted and loved, and try to make it a special experience for them, not just try to rush through it and get through the meeting so we can get on to our next meeting or finish something in the office. We need to take our time and truly give our families what they deserve and their loved ones the service that they deserve. Um, so I just think it's important that we listen and sometimes think outside the box. So,
I like how you put that because yeah, I think we do need to think outside of the box, but like also like Grace actually took her time and like slowed down
mhm.
and like you said, listened and got into the nitty gritty with the family.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think every family that we serve is here for a purpose and a reason,
mhm.
and I do believe that um we're here to serve them. So
Yeah. And we have the privilege to
yes,
serve them.
exactly.
Yep.
So I would just say, yeah, take the time, slow down, um, do the best you can. And if there is questions, there's always time to ask them.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
and I like how Grace went about that in the
Yeah,
book also.
I agree.